Today I am joined by Joshua at 369 Financial. How are you today, my friend?
Good. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me on. It's my mission to educate people on the best ways to grow their wealth. So most financial advisors that you work with, they're going to give you the things that are pretty much Googleable. And ultimately, it's all about figuring out how to put a person in the best position for them so that they can achieve the most wealth possible, not just push them into some sort of cookie cutter investment product like most people do.
Where did this journey begin? Financial planning, where it sounds kind of similar to what I did. So I worked at big agencies, mentored, all that stuff. And one day I was like, screw it. I want to put my own little shingle on top of my door, and I want to, and a phone number, and please call me. What was that journey like? So where did you start? And then where was that fruition that made you start your own gig?
I mean, it started when I was a kid. I lived on a golf
Oh, wow.
course, and after the golf course was closed, I'd walk on the golf course and find golf balls and clean them up and sit back on the golf course and sell them back to the golfers as they're driving by. I didn't know like what I was doing as a kid. I was just like, hey, I can make 50 cents on this golf ball, or if it's a nice golf ball, sell it for $1. And I just did in my backyard, and the customers come to me. And that was my journey and introduction to being an entrepreneur. But as a kid, you don't know what you're doing. Like, I used to come home after like elementary school and check the stock market. I had like 2 shares of a company and be like, oh, I made a quarter. I lost 50 cents today. And you're just like doing things that you don't really have like a passion for as a kid because it's pretty boring, but like you take an interest in it and you look at it like a little bit here, a little bit there. But I was always really good at math, and I went to school for actuarial science and didn't know I was ever going to be a financial advisor. I kind of just got tricked into it.
You went to college and you got into that degree, or did you get into financial planning, or is that the same thing? I just want to make sure I understand.
No, so actuarial science is the study of risk using statistics. So do you have a favorite sports team?
Yes, the Rams, yeah, Los Angeles, where I'm
So
at.
it'd be like, given the Los Angeles Rams won the Super Bowl, what's the chances they win the Super Bowl 2 years in a row? Those are the sort of things that we would figure out with our degree, using things like conditional probability and using statistics to figure out what are the chances of something happening. And that's why when you start doing the math and you hear of people buying things like insurance products, you'll find out there's like statistics like 99% of term insurance policies never pay out, which means the insurance company keeps 99% of the premiums that are paid out to them. In result of that, people who buy whole life insurance, it's kind of like gambling against the casino in Vegas, except if you win with whole life insurance, you're not here to collect the check.
So then you were in college, you actuary science, getting into financial planning come in. Like, was that in college or was that outside of college?
Well, I've always had an interest in the stock market and investing.
Interesting.
And there's like a bunch of exams that you take if you're going to go into the actuarial field. And the first exam that we took is called financial mathematics. So you learn all about like options and annuities and how to price them and all sorts of crazy math stuff that most people are never going to have to learn.
Of
It
course.
is like the tests are 3 hours long, 30 questions, multiple guests. So you'll spend a lot of time on each question, and literally on your calculator, you'd have to go to like the 10th decimal place. If you didn't go like all the way to the 10th decimal place, that's not exact enough for this sort of math. And I graduated and I did everything that people told me to do, and I couldn't get a job as an actuary. So I ended up in the financial field, and I quickly found out that financial advisors don't know pretty much anything about investing. And that's when I realized there's a problem.
That's kind of what happened to me. I graduated college. My parents were teachers. My mom was a teacher. My uncle was a teacher. It just runs in our family. I just have ADD. I'm just not. And God bless anybody who goes into that profession. God bless them. They are doing the Lord's work. But I'm just not patient enough. I'm just nuts. So I knew right away it wasn't for me. I just went to a bunch of job fairs, and I found out about advertising, marketing, and then I found out about media planning. And that's what I did. Back then, digital was coming up, but it really was all about TV. It was even about magazines and even newspaper. I bought newspaper, if you can believe it, for a while, which is crazy. I just stuck with it. And then eventually, the social platforms took off, like Meta and, of course, Google. And I just been in it ever since. And I love it. I swim like a fish. It just speaks my language. And it's just amazing how if you just stay in that field, eventually it's almost like a path will open up for you. And that's what it kind of sounds like from what I'm hearing for you.
You definitely have to evolve. And I mean, even Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway, they actually owned a newspaper, the Buffalo News, and it was very profitable. And they knew exactly who their readers were, and they even owned an encyclopedia company that was making a lot of money until Microsoft came out and put the encyclopedia on their operating system for free, and basically just killed their business.
I think I remember that. I think I actually remember that CD-ROM. If I'm right, I think I actually remember this, which is nuts. Oh my God, you're taking me memory lane. Interesting. So, okay, so you got into this amazing field, financial planning. Seems like you even had an advantage, right? Because you spoke math and you were able to do a lot of prediction, a lot of analysis, especially on people, and kind of put them in the right area. How did you grow that? Because it's my understanding, I kind of dabble with financial planning just a little, and I had a good friend who tried to get me into it. I eventually just did what I did, but I remember it was a lot of cultivating leads, right? A lot of referrals.
Okay.
What was that like? How did that work?
Well, initially I started working at large companies, so I didn't have to find leads. The leads were the existing customers. So I had to learn how to talk to people in a way that they can understand complex things, because I just went to school for 4 years doing high level math, and you get out into the real world and you're used to talking a certain way with your professors and with the students in your class about certain things. And then once you get out into the non-fantasy land anymore after you graduate, you realize no one knows what the hell you're talking about. So, I mean, I had to learn how to talk to people. And I mean, I was doing really well. I was making pretty good money. I bought my first house at 25.
Wow,
And like people are
nice.
like, "Oh, you're doing so good." I'm just like kind of like, "Whatever, man. Like I'm just working hard. Like it's not a big deal to me." And then I realized like by 27, I'd made as much money as I could where I was at. I wasn't growing anymore. And I realized I had to leave. And I gave up my last bonus check. I remember it was going to be like more than $20,000. And I forwent my bonus check to join a independent firm in Florida. And I invested $40,000 to join that investment firm to essentially like buy my freedom and buy equity in the company. Because I told the guy, listen, man, I don't know how to find clients. I can't start from zero. I want to have some cash flow coming in. I'm willing to invest. And that's how I got out into outside of
And
corporate America.
let's kind of delve that a little bit there. Okay, so you're in these large corporations, right? That basically where you do a lot of mentorship and learn, exactly like me, right? I was there a little too long. I was actually there for about 15 plus years, right?
Holy
And
crap. I lasted like 3.5.
I know what a sucker I am. So
Just one
so
more bonus check. You're just like one more bonus, one more bonus.
I know I was I was a good soldier, I really, and at the time, like I said, you're buying newspapers, you're buying magazines, you're buying television, right? How am I going to buy television from my home, right? But now it's a whole different ball game, right? With Google ads, with Meta ads, with Canva, all these tools that you're able to just actually create a business just almost magically. Um,
Mhm.
so going back to that, right? So you obviously made some kind of connection, right, with this person. How did you meet that person? How did you meet the person in Florida that you're talking about? And how did were they headhunt you? Did they know you? What was that like?
I mean, basically, I knew I needed to get out. So I started calling like every independent financial company in Jacksonville that I could. And
Mm,
I finally got someone who wanted someone. And it took about a year of me annoying this person, calling them, following up. And then eventually they're like, all right, you can join. I'm like, all
right.
right, I'm good. Here's the check. Let's go. let's make it happen. And they were like, hey, we have an accounting department, tax season's coming up. We want you to meet with people. We want to do this, we want to do that. We could probably find like a big client to replace the bonus that you just went out and gave up to join us. And I got there and no one knew I was coming except for him. Like, who is this? Oh, and I didn't find out till afterwards. I was like the third person because everyone
Oh,
else quit.
okay. Yeah. So what happened then? Oh,
Well, I have no idea how I have no idea how to find clients. I thought if I have a skill and I offered it to people, then that would work. And ultimately, I pretty much just had fun during that time. I was like, well, no one wants to talk to me, so I'm just going to be really creative. So I wrote probably 200 to 300 different blog posts. I was writing, I was being really creative. I was like coming up with like book ideas. I would just be like, hey, I'm going to go hang out at this coffee shop or go play golf and see who I meet. I didn't know how to create like a system because it wasn't my company and the website sucked. Like these people don't know anything. They don't know anything about how to like craft a message on their website, how to use Google to your advantage, getting reviews, doing just like the bare minimum, like doing Google My Business posts like once a week, doing blog posts, doing videos. And I was like saying that we need to do all these things, but of course these older people that have been in business and been doing it the old school way are failing to adapt with the times.
you established yourself as a almost marketing lead over there. It sounds like you grew the business. How long were you there? How long did you stay there?
It lasted about 2.5 years. And the breaking point was I started like getting some momentum. I started finding some opportunities. People were referring me. They know I'd been in the business for quite some time. I didn't just like get in and like get out. Like we all have the friend that like has 27 jobs by the time they're 30, like jumping from place to place, and they call you for coffee and they're like, oh, I got this new opportunity. But I stuck with it. Like I never gave up. And I was smart because when I bought my first house, I made sure I bought a 4-bedroom house, and that gave me 3 rooms to rent out. So I was basically just living in a compound with three other guys living at the beach, having a good time, riding bikes, hanging out. So I mean, my
Nice.
expenses were super low. I didn't need a lot of money. Still don't need a lot of money to live. And ultimately, I like was excited because I was like, man, I finally got some business. My paycheck's going to be X. And then I found out that I was getting the improper pay the whole time, and that's why like I wasn't able to like meet my expenses. I ended up, you know, raising hell there.
Was that the last straw? Like, did you were like, hey, I'm gonna go set up my own shop, or did you hop from there, or what was the process there?
I don't know if I handled it well or not, but basically I just like packed up all my stuff and left and didn't say anything. And then
Oh,
the person like flipped it on me, is like, hey, this is a compliance issue. You just like took all of your stuff and left. Like, I'm gonna have to report you. And I'm like, for what? They're like, you're supposed to work in the office. I was like, well, you never told me I have to work in the office. You told me you don't care where I work.
mhm.
And ultimately, it was like my first introduction to negotiating at when the stakes are kind of high. I mean, not super, super high. We're not talking like millions of dollars or anything, but it was like my license is on the line. How am I going to get this money back that I gave this guy?
Mhm.
Things like that. And ultimately ended up negotiating a deal where he paid me back, but it took him 18 months to pay me back. So I looked at it as, hey, I get a paycheck of the money that I gave him for the next 18 months. Every 3 months, he'd send me a check. About 18 months to figure out what the heck I was going to do next.
You're on your own. You're getting your money back, or your pay, I should say. What was the next step then?
Well, I ran into like a neighbor, and she lived on my street, and she actually worked for like a financial company. She goes, oh, our company's super cool. We're hiring. Like, I think you'd be really good at it. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm just not cut out for this. So I went and applied for the job, didn't get the job. And so every job I applied for, I didn't get. And I was like, well, no one wants me. I guess I'll just do it myself. But
Yep.
I decided to give it one last chance to partner with someone. And it was someone I met through Rotary. And I thought Rotary was like a cool high standing organization. I sat down with the guy, I go, listen, man, I just got screwed over. You got to pay me. Like, you have to pay me. He looked at me, he's like, I want you to get paid. You will get paid. 6 months went by. He didn't pay me.
Oh,
I took a letter, and it was January 2020. Took a letter, put it on his desk in an envelope, and then just flew to California for a trip and spoken to him since.
and I take it after that, that's when you made your own company, correct? Is that like it, or did you keep
Well, I
going?
wasn't sure what I was going to do. And then,
Yeah.
I mean, we're January 2020. The very next month, the whole world shut down. So I'm sitting at my kitchen table. I'm like, well, I guess I'll just start my own company. I got nothing but time right now.
I can't believe you said that. So that's what kind of happened to me. I was at, like I said, a good soldier at all these companies. I was at my final place actually for a good 5+ years, maybe even 6 years at the place I was at prior. I remember it was 2 months before Shmovid, let's call it that. And I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden they just went bankrupt. Like everyone got fired. And, talk about like a total like punch to the gut, right? And it's like, oh my Lord, what am I going to do? Blah, blah, blah. At the time I was living with a girlfriend, all sorts of stuff. And I was just like you, I was just like, you know what? If it's any time to do this, there is any time to do this, right now is the time to do this. So I was just like, it was so nutty. And the first year was so punishing and so hard.
Any?
60, I think 50.
Damn, dude.
I didn't make much.
I made like $6,000 in my first year.
Oh, my Lord. Yeah. Okay, now I take that back. I did have payroll, though. I did have payroll. I just stuck it out. And so we're talking, what, 2021, 2020, somewhere around there. So I've been doing it for like almost 3 years now, just with this. And I have to say, like you said, the first year, punishing. So I probably was about 20 to 30, somewhere around there, how much I made. But luckily I had some severance. Luckily I had some money saved up. But man, that first year was rough. Do we have to go through another year of this? We had some great previous clients that looked me up. And I just made it through about 18 months of doing this. I started generating finally some clients. And going back to what I was trying to say, it's the more you're in it, just the more people know that you're hustling and, hey, I have a cousin, or I want to do this, or hey, I have a buddy who is starting a business. Can you do media for them? All that stuff. And eventually it's just weird. Like I would say it was this year, it was 2024 that finally it just like pushed through. Like that's the best way to describe it. And I started my YouTube channel. I started my podcast. I started like you said, writing blogs, putting out that organic out there. And luckily I don't know what happened, but this year and it's the third year, right? So it just pushed through. And I'm very blessed. Now we have more business than we can shake a stick at. We're actually, hiring. We probably doubled in size, which is, small. I mean, we're a team of 7 now, roughly. So we're trying to even like get higher. But man, that first year, I don't ever want to go through that again. So you said you had a very tough first year. What made you stick in it, man? If you made under 10K, what made you stick in it? Why keep going?
I got nothing to lose. And I know I have a gift. And if I went back and got a corporate job, I remember, did you watch The Last Dance?
Stance.
Michael Jordan and the Bulls on Netflix.
Oh, yes. I've seen parts of it. I know what you're talking about. Yes.
What Phil Jackson said to like Michael Jordan when he retired, he's like, you have a gift and you're not sharing that gift with the world. However, I understand like you want to take this break. I was like, well, I have a gift and I want to share it with the world. And if I don't share it with the world, I would regret it. So that's what kept me going despite not doing well. But luckily I saved up money. I invested well. I kept my expenses low. And when you're broke, you can still have fun.
Yeah. You learn how to have a good time very cheaply.
Which tells you something. You don't need a lot of money to have fun or be happy.
Absolutely. Going back to your story. So that first year, right? Did you have employees? Did you have how did you get your site up? How did you get your LLC? Like, how did you just push yourself up literally on your shoulders to get where you are now? Obviously, we're talking about being frugal. We're talking about, stretch resources. What was that game? You must have had a vision. I got to 10x the scale for at least for this to be profitable for the second year. What gave you that holy shit moment to like push through? And I'm sure you're doing it the whole time. It's just really getting all those referrals come back to you and finally generating all those leads. Talk to me about that.
Oh, the cool part about the world we live in is there's a lot of other companies out there that have already set up shop. And in order to get the right documentation done, back in the day, you'd have to hire an attorney. They'd have to draft everything up, and that's expensive. Now you can just go on other companies' websites and literally use them as a template, and that gets you all the paperwork that you need to get licensed. Obviously, you make adjustments, so you're not just copying, pasting. And this is before ChatGPT, so you can't just ChatGPT a bunch of stuff. And ultimately, you get the paperwork through. You put in the paperwork with the state, and then you're up and running. And I actually just was like, well, I gotta make this happen somehow. So I actually partnered with another person. I still didn't give up on finding a partner. And in the beginning, it was going well. He was helpful. And then as Josh was bringing on more business and doing more work, this person stopped doing work and stopped showing up and stopped being supportive, and put this person to the test. You always have to test people, even if it's small tests. So what I did was we had an office, and I was going to use extra money to like clean the office, like clean all the carpets, clean everything. And I said, if this person says thank you or acknowledges what I did, then I'll stay. But if not, I got to find a way out. Didn't get a thank you. Nothing. And I was like, that's not a person I want to do business with. And also, after I saw the Elvis movie, I kind of realized I felt like Elvis, where someone's just taking all the reward and not doing all the work.
I know exactly what you're talking about. At some point, you're hustling, and how a lot of corporations work, really. Like you have these, no matter how hard you work, you're kind of not appreciated. And I felt like that's where I knew then. I was like, hey, man, I know I'm an overperformer. I know I work hard. I'm told I'm an overperformer, but I'm not getting the bonuses. I'm not getting the love. I'm not getting, which is okay. Hey, man, I'm not trying to say I'm special or anything, but if I'm working weekends and I'm working late and this guy is leaving on Thursday at 4:00, it sucks, and that's what I love about owning my own business is the fact that you push yourself and you're able to select who you want to bring in. At that point, how long has 369 Financial been around? How long are you in the timeline?
Since 2020.
Just 2020. Okay,
so
cool.
About 5 years.
5 years. How are things this year? How are things shaping up?
A lot better.
A lot better than 6,000. A lot better than 6,000.
A lot better than that. Yeah. I mean, we have like a system now, and we started at zero, and we actually hit over $10 million in assets this year. So now we have money, like we have clients, we have proof of concept. In the beginning, I was just telling people what I knew, but they're like, how many clients do you have? I was like, 2. I got 2. I got none. I got 3. So like people are scared of that. However, my biggest shortcoming is my biggest tool is, listen, if I fail, you fail. And if you fail, I fail. So the stakes are too high for us to both fail. So is that someone you want helping you build wealth? Or do you just want to give your money to a big faceless organization? They have you on salary, you get bonuses, and literally you don't care whether people stay or leave or how they do, because you're still going to get paid.
In terms of running your own business, right? Because you talked about a few times when you partnered, you worked your ass off, you didn't get paid, or you had to, unfortunately, take people to court or threaten them or whatever to get paid. What was a big learning in terms of shaping your own business where you're like, what I need to do and how I can beat the larger guys?
I mean, this year we helped 2 different families cross into a millionaire status.
Wow.
I I mean, that's pretty cool,
That is amazing. That is
and we're just
amazing.
getting started.
Yeah. Now that brings me to another question. You kind of brought it up. How do you compete against the big guys? How do you do it? Because right, you have these. I'm not gonna even name drop or whatever, but we all know their names. They're huge names.
I just call them big faceless organizations.
Yeah, that's about right. Big faceless. We'll just say that big faceless. And I mean, how do you compete against that? How do you stand out? Is it the service? Is it the returns? Is it the case studies?
Thing is, everyone's like, "Who's your competition?" I was like, "My competition is myself. I'm competing against myself. I'm not competing against anyone else." And my whole mindset is when I meet people, I'll give you an example. I met with someone the other day. They live in California. They they make like $600,000 a year, which is even in California, that's still pretty good. I mean, they're not like paycheck to paycheck in California, even though the taxes are crazy and everything. And he hops on a call, paid $30 for a consult, had a question about something, and literally got to a point. It's like, wow, what else do you know? So my whole goal is just to like tell people things that they can't hear on the internet. They can't Google it. This is financial advice that I've learned through either practice, reading, or making my own mistakes, and I don't have time to like sit on social media all day and make videos, and I don't have a big following. And ultimately, it's basically just like, you can't get me anywhere else. So either you want me or you don't want me. And the people that choose me most of the time are very happy. Now, I can't say that everyone's been happy because no matter how good you are, whether you're Yusuf, Josh, Warren Buffett, Bill Ackman, Microsoft, or any sort of company, you're going to lose clients. It's just the nature of the business. But ultimately, I'm only one person and I'm only in one place. So if you want me, you have to come here. So essentially, I am the product right now until I can, grow our organization, put people on payroll, things like that.
On that note, I mean, how do people find you? What is there any specialty you do for your particular 369 Financial? Is there a certain person you're looking for? So if there's somebody out there that needs advice, how do they get a hold of you and what can you do for them?
Google my name. I'm the only person with this name, and you could find me on anywhere you want to find me. We do a lot of cool things. One of the things that we do for younger investors is an investment strategy called life cycle investing that was developed by Yale professors. And through their research, they actually showed a way to help investors earn a higher return taking the same amount of risk they're already currently taking. And when I met with these Yale professors, they asked Josh, what was one thing we could have done better? I was like, well, you could have marketed your book because no one knows about this. The best investment strategies are from very smart people. The thing with the smart people is once they finish one project, they're on to the next. That's all they care about is research and developing things versus companies like Apple are like marketing machines.
Is it just referrals? Is it you don't do much social media? You don't make videos? You don't do podcasts? So how do people find you? How do you get that prospect and nurture them and get them as a client?
Well, I have been actually have a podcast, but you're happy you can come on as a guest if you want. We've been doing videos on. I had to restart my Instagram because it got hacked last year, and someone attempted to scam people out of money. So
Oh
I
no.
created a whole new Instagram. We have a podcast called Unconventional Money Moves, where we have people who come on who've taken an unconventional route to finding success in their lives. So we've been doing, YouTube, Instagram. My goal, I used to write a blog post a week. Now it's like down to a month just because I've been so slammed. And mostly it's through referrals and the internet. And I've created systems, literally looking to, whenever I come up with a new system, I think to myself, what would McDonald's do? how would McDonald's make this so simple that if I showed someone how to do it once, they can do it forever? So I just like have systems where if I talk to someone on the phone, they agree to a consult. I see they don't book a consult within 24 hours. I put them into a box. Or if they book a consult and then they don't agree to a follow-up meeting, I put them into another box. And it automatically pushes them through and nurtures them and touches them another, 2 to 6 times. And then ultimately, if I don't hear back from people, I just move on.
Do you use like a CRM by chance?
It's like an automated. It's an automated like email and texting service. So I create campaigns. So let's just say I get clients now. Now people are asking, Josh, how do you manage having over 80 clients? I go, that's really easy. I create a video, I edit it, I put it on YouTube, I send an email out, I do a written portion, I post it to the podcast, and I post it to YouTube. So all 80 clients are getting the exact same message from me on what I'm telling them, on what I'm seeing, what adjustments we're making, and what they should be looking out for when it comes to their investments. So I can get the same message out to every single person. And literally, I was on a call with a sales professor. He's a professor at a university of sales. He's like, how often do you talk to your clients? I was like, I really never hear from him. He's like, that's terrible. And I was like, well, I don't know. No one ever calls me, which is cool because they know I'm doing a good job. At the same time, though, sometimes it's like you attempt to get a hold of people and it's hard, but getting like a referral in the financial advising business is much different because money is such a taboo subject. And I feel like it is becoming a lot less taboo. Like people are starting to talk more about it. But it's just kind of like, how do you bring up to someone like, hey, like this guy made me a bunch of money. Do you want to go make money? Like, it's like a little awkward.
And how many listeners do you have your podcast? Like how many like downloads do you have?
I don't know. I know we have like over 400 subscribers on YouTube. I was looking at it and we had, I don't know, hundreds of like 400, 500 hours watched this year, which isn't like a ton, but so it's like we have our short form channel. Like I just create systems. We have our short form channel where if it's just me talking, like you and I are talking right now, it'll go to this page. If it's like a clip of you and I talking, then it goes to the podcast page under shorts and the little clips and then the long form. And then if it's you and I talking, we're connected on LinkedIn, then I'll post it on LinkedIn, tag you. So that way we can do things there. And then just basically creating a system around that where it's all as asynchronous as possible. I use repurpose.io for that. Fun. I always think like, how can I be like Bill Nye the Science Guy of money?
You know, it's funny. I saw locally this guy. He was a realtor, and all he would do around LA is go to these restaurants and like talk about the food. And he was like, "Oh, by the way, if you want to go out realty," and of course people are like, "Hey, man, I'm down to find some decent tacos, or whatever." So I was so seamless. I was like, "That's genius. That's genius." And the golf thing, I think, is a great tie-in.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I definitely agree with your podcast. Like, so I have my podcast, and I actually do that every day. I actually spend 10 minutes a day. I'll just there's a hiking Runyon Canyon. If you've been to LA, it sounds like you have been several times. Runyon Canyon is right by me. And when I come down, I do like not 5, maybe a 10-minute just voice on what I learned today. And I put that on my podcast, and it's very simple. Just throw it in there. Is there like anything else you want to talk about in terms of what's coming up with 369 Financial?
Well, it was funny because like I met a bunch of people and they're like, oh, we need to teach kids about financial literacy. So I wrote 3 kids
Brilliant.
books about money, business, money, investing, and entrepreneurship. Actually, just like got a new wealth guide that I finished, and it has like a lot of things in there that I've learned. Like I wrote something called like the 10 Commandments of Investing, and it's like the 10 rules that I've like given to myself